Hello, I'm Jennifer Yacuta, and welcome to LUTV Sports Break, where we will discuss interesting sports topics with our panel of sports reporters. In 2010, the New England Patriots selected Florida Gator Aaron Hernandez in the 4th round of the National Football League draft. Hernandez recently committed suicide while serving a life sentence for a murder in a Massachusetts prison. He was an All-American in college and found success in the NFL despite having several criminal off-the-field matters. Panel, with the draft on the horizon, is the life of Aaron Hernandez a cautionary tale? Will general managers rethink drafting players with personal issues outside the lines, or will on-field production be the main factor in deciding their draft picks?
I think Colin Cowherd said it best. You know, he kind of was a coward. He went the easy route instead of paying his dues for the things that he'd done. He didn't go through the trial of court. He just committed suicide. It is a very sad thing, but to me it seems like a cop-out.
And what I don't get is, like, why haven't we always looked at how outside issues affect these players? Like, why is Aaron Hernandez's death saying, like, oh, should we now look at people's issues and how, like, they act on and off the field? Like, that's something they should always have done.
Yeah, there are some players this year that are going to have some trouble. That stock has fallen down because of their off-the-field issues, but I think nothing's going to happen. One of those 32 teams are still going to pick Joe Mixon. After everything he's gone through, a team is still going to pick him. So I think even though they're worried about the off-the-field issues, it's the player's talent that is ultimately going to get them the job.
I don't think anybody's worried about the off-the-field issues. That's never, to me, that's never going to happen. They're never going to take that into consideration. How many DUIs, domestic violence, drug charges have many players gotten? And all they get is they get in trouble with the law, minor trouble because they're stars, but then the NFL fines them. But these players are making a ton of money, so these fines doesn't affect them at all.
Well, and remember, just a couple months ago, we sat in here and talked about, you know, well, how is the recruiting going to change now? Are they going to recruit for their personality or for their players? And Jen, you made the argument that, you know, there's always going to be good players out there. I mean, is this the case?
Yeah, especially, like, if, say, like, you do have guys who do have issues off the field, but they win Super Bowls. No one's going to be like, oh, but our team has good morals.
I mean, you just have to think about even last year, Dak Prescott, he had a DUI. Look what he did now. You have Tyreek Hill, 2 of the best rookies last season, both had off the field issues last season, but they excelled in their career. I just think it's play by play, it's player by player. You can't just put everyone in this one circle, especially after Aaron Hernandez. I think both of those things need to be leveled out.
Well, I agree with what I did say in my previous comment. Yes, I think that if you have an issue, go ahead and choose somebody else. There's always going to be a pool of players that are out there ready for the NFL that don't have any issues. But frankly, that's never going to happen. Like, if they're in the draft, and for example, last year in the draft when there was a player that got, you know, the weed mask thing going on. Okay. They still drafted him. That didn't affect it one bit, and it happens minutes before the draft.
Well, and I think there's a fine line. Like, I mean, you can't even compare Aaron Hernandez, the things that he's done compared to Dak Prescott's DUI, and I think that's where they need to draw the line is, okay, are these mistakes the common man is making, or is this a murderer or a person that needs to be in jail that should not be suited up around other men and be looked up to by kids? I think that's where the line needs to be drawn, and the recruiting process, like, they have to take in consideration those things, but also understand that these are humans. They're going to slip up, like a DUI. They're going to pay their dues for that. Let them back on the field for that kind of stuff, but Aaron Hernandez, not forgivable.
Yeah, not at all, especially going back to his career back at the University of Florida. His freshman year, he got into a bar fight. He failed 6 drug tests. So, I mean, the warning signs were there for everyone to see. So I just don't like that we're putting now that since he committed suicide, we're worried about all these other off-the-field issues, even though they're minor. They might not even compare to those. So I think if the general managers, they do their due diligence and actually look at everything, then I think all these players should be fine.
And what I don't get is they're looking at all these, now they're starting to look at all these issues off the field, but there's so many issues on the field. Like, you have stuff like players who are still playing with concussions because coaches want to win. So they could care less about the player's health or not, and that creates further issues. You've got so many people who have killed themselves because they have stuff like CTE, which has gotten or just been a cause of them playing football with injuries.
Well, I think the game is changing with that, though. I think now, like, when you look at concussions, like, coaches are getting...
We have more technology.
Yeah, there's a lot more. I think it's more we need to go back on, like, your things that you do, like, your punishments and crimes you've committed, like, those are problems. I think injuries, that's held up to the trainers, and that's still an evolving process, but I think that's a process that's a lot more steps more above than where they're at right now with the recruiting process.
We mentioned this a while back to where, does the NFL intervene, or do we let the law take care of their business? And I think that that's something that needs to be done a little bit better, because I feel like the NFL is intervening quite a bit with their players and having them, you know, pay a fine and you're fine, you're good to go, you're good to play. So
I don't know. I just think it's going to be interesting seeing the Joe Mixon, Chad Kelly, Tim Williams, all those players that have these off-the-field issues. Where are they honestly going to go in the draft, especially with Joe Mixon with the video that happened and all that good stuff? What team, because whatever team drafts him, it's going to be a PR nightmare.
And it's
going to be a nightmare.
You have people who are like, if they're a regular person and they murder somebody, you're like, death penalty to them automatically. There's so many people who are like that. But if they're a superstar and they murder somebody, they're like, just there's probably a reason he murdered them. Like, there's so many excuses to back them up.
Well, and like Jen said, let the law handle it and let the NFL do their job as far as football goes. Let the law handle it and let football do football.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see what happens next week for the draft. Well, thank you, panel, and thank you for tuning in to LUTV Sports Break. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter for more Lamar University sports. See you next time.